have not thought through at all how we're like introing this. You know how every podcast has like a jingle or something, you know, or like,
Yeah.
hey guys, welcome
Hey
back.
guys.
I don't know what we do, and I think that'll be like an evolution. Like eventually, we'll be so like popular and have so many fans that like they can decide for us. Tap tap. Is this thing on? Like, are we recording? I have a feeling who is going to tune into this episode is like our moms and like all the people who are like close friends with us on Instagram. You know, like your close friends list.
I feel like
those are who's going to listen.
Worst enemies would probably be
and our haters. You're so right. There's literally 3 categories: our moms, our close friend circle on Instagram, and our haters.
I feel like we should put it on LinkedIn so that way we can see, like, first premiere it on LinkedIn so that way they're like required to show us who's watching it. I want to like be like, here's a little sneak peek. Like instead of a Patreon, we're posting it on LinkedIn so that way we have to see who's been stalking to like watch it.
And I feel like that's your way of calling out and saying that you do in fact not have your like private settings turned on LinkedIn. Do you not, Sam, or do you know that's a thing?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Jesus, of course you don't.
No, that was a thing.
So,
wait,
hi everyone,
real?
natural hello into the podcast. Welcome to me and Sam's podcast. One thing about us is I stalk everybody on LinkedIn, but that's because it's my job. I'm literally in sales. So yeah, that's item number 1. After this, we wrap and record our first episode is to help Sam have her privacy settings turned on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
It's so fun though, because oh my god, other people like that's how I know, like that's how I found out that my ex-boyfriend had a girlfriend is because I was like, who is this girl that keeps looking at my LinkedIn profile?
Your LinkedIn?
Yes, and that's how I connected the dots. And I was like, but I get it. Like, duh, like who hasn't, you know, made that decision to stalk? So, yeah.
No, my favorite is Venmo. That's like my favorite social media. That's how I find out everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
I need to do that more. I feel like I lack in the Venmo stalking. But when I do go on there, I send everything on private, though. I do. I don't know why, because I don't want people looking at my Venmo transactions, which is so dumb.
I don't really care. I mean, at first I was like insecure because me and Josh are poor, so like we request each other for everything. Like even if it's like a Diet Coke, I'm like, okay, where's my $1.50? Like you owe me that $1.50.
I'm obsessed with that. Okay, can we talk about that? What are our takes? Obviously, you're standing and you like are convicted and like we're married and we request each other for everything.
I feel like we've always done that. I didn't realize there was like a stigma behind it because, I mean, even all throughout high school and college, like we make the same amount of money. So
totally,
who cares? Like, obviously, we're very like, if you get me this, I'll probably get the next dinner. We also do that, but like, we have credit card due dates. I'm not gonna be like, oh, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So I don't know. I feel like it's hard though because a lot of women, and it's okay, have different expectations of what is paid and what's not paid. And I hate that that's like what people worry about.
I know.
Like, who cares?
I know.
I don't
seriously.
feel bad. I'll request Josh for a Diet Coke from QT. That was $1.50. You owe me $1.50. I'm not buying it this time.
And I cannot wait for the divorce papers to come in because that is the only grounds we stand on is like divorce. Why? Because we Venmo request each other all the time. No, I am on your side of history. I'm on your side of history, honestly. Like people who are lurking on Venmo to see which couples are requesting each other. I think that's so whack. Like, please, like actually get a life.
I did have someone comment about like our groceries one time and she was like, well, why don't you get it 1 week and then like the next week he gets it? And I'm like, well, we're fat. And so like sometimes we overeat 1 week and indulge. And that's usually when we have money and we don't have to pay off our credit card. But like we're literally that meme of like the first week we're buying steak and crab legs. And then the week after that we're getting ramen.
1,000%.
Like, no, I'm not going to cover it this week and then only spend $50 the next week because we're buying ramen. No.
The American dream. I love that. Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
We're best friends. And so like when I say like, oh, I want to go get Panda, it's not like oh, I want to go get Panda Express,
and
so
I'm
you have to
treating you.
pay for it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like we spend our time, most of our time together. So if I want to go get
yeah.
something, I'm going to go pay for it. And like, I think that's a big problem in relationships is they don't know how to differentiate when it's a date versus you're just hanging out,
I
if that
know.
makes
That's
sense.
it does make sense. I think with the right person, you don't have any like anxiety or stress about it. I feel like early
Yeah.
on in like when I've been with like the wrong person, I've been stressed out about that of like, okay, when is it like an appropriate time for me to pay when we're like just starting to see each other and we're on like date
Yeah.
number 5? I hot take, like I think like the girl doesn't start paying for any dates until they're not until they're official, but until they're like, okay, we're out of just like the going on like first dates, we're like actually seeing each other. Then I
Yeah.
think like it's fun for the girl to like go and pay for like one date. It's like a 1 to 5
Yeah.
ratio in my mind. But I
I
also know you
agree.
and Josh, and you guys like have the healthiest relationship out of anybody. So
Oh, I don't know.
all this to say, I think for the right person, you don't like worry about it. I feel like we should talk about like why we decided to start a podcast and like the idea behind it. I'm
Okay.
okay. I'm gonna go for it because I feel like I have like a decent recollection of this, and I want to hear if it's like similar for
Okay.
you. But I feel like there's nothing better than being in a relationship when you like, your friends, your family, your significant other, and you can like have moments of silence together and it not be awkward. But like one thing about Sam and I's relationship is we have not ever known like a moment of silence. Like I swear to God, we're always talking. I remember one time we've been quiet with each other, and it was on the drive back from the Eras tour. We did go
Yes.
to Arlington night 3. If you know, you know. Sam and I
Oh,
were there in the flesh.
yes.
And on the way back home, you were sleeping in the car, and that was the only moment of silence we've known because you were like so exhausted. But yeah, I think you like kind of started to plant the seed like a little bit of like we should start a podcast. Like I love to like create content, and I know you're just like a certified yapper and like great at public
Oh yeah.
speaking.
Oh
So
yeah.
I think that's how it evolved is like you planted the seed, and then I feel like I ran with the idea and was like, okay, here's the name, here's the logistics, here's what we're doing. But what do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I think like how I mentioned to you a long time ago is that I feel like I'm the Sophia and you're the Alex Cooper. I have visions in life. I don't necessarily implement them, but I
Yep.
feel like I bring the comedy, and so I can always argue a higher pay salary when it comes to that, you know?
Yeah, we here you've heard it first. You know exactly how on day 1 of the podcast we're already predicting how the podcast is going to end.
But you're like
Obsessed.
more of the planner, and we go on our Sundays every Sunday, and I feel like we talk about so many different things that the world needs to hear,
We need a
unfortunately.
platform. Unfortunately,
Yes.
you are all going to now listen. Talk to people about our Sun dates more. Like, I think that's like
Oh,
something that is so cute and fun and like maybe unique to us how we've like literally trademarked it. Like, talk to people about like what we do, like how long we've been doing it, and like what our friends and family know about Sunday. Like, Sunday is sacred to
yeah,
us.
it is. Okay, I don't remember how it started. I remember I was at a period in my life, me and Taylor had started getting closer and closer. And I realized you were really important to my life. And I was really lonely. And I think I communicated to you that I wanted consistent people in my life. And so we started saying, like, okay, how do we see each other once a week? Or how do we like make time to at least acknowledge each other's presence once a week? And we started meeting up to go on walks at Zilker and Town Lake and all of the things. And it was so nice, one, for depression to go and see the sunlight and to
Real.
get out. And also, it sort of evolved to like grabbing a certain coffee shop that we saw on TikTok or going to a vintage store and just taking time to be with a girlfriend and to kind of disassociate and yap for a few hours. I mean, at least for me, like Josh, my husband, he knows, he blocks off the whole day for us. So that way it's like whether you want to hang out at night or in the morning or in the afternoon, it doesn't matter. Sunday, it's happening no matter what. And like my mom, she knew Taylor just from Sunday. Like before she even met you, she was like, I need to meet Taylor. Like, this is the girl that you hang out with every single Sunday. And even when we aren't in person, I love that we call each other or send voice messages. I actually discovered them through you, Taylor. I didn't know how to send a voice message before
I'm
you.
shocked that like I'm the older one in this relationship
I
sometimes. Like
had no idea.
Sam's commentary and like like her personality is like as Gen Z as it gets, but when it comes to any technology, she is so boomer.
No.
But that's okay. I'm like her like cusp Gen Z millennial friend who can like guide
Oh
her through
yeah.
how to send a voice memo.
Oh yeah. But what is it? What is it to you? Like, what is a Sunday?
Every single thing that you mention, it's like one thing I'm so passionate about is female friendships. It's like I truly believe female friendships like power, like they're an energy source, and I got that from Tinks. Tinks, one of my favorite influencers and podcasters ever. Again, another reason why we started this podcast is a podcast about podcasts to talk about things like Tinks's philosophies on female friendships and dating and navigating your 20s. Having one day out of the week where you're able to see like one of your closest friends to catch up on the week, because we live not only such different lives in terms of our 9 to 5 and how our week looks. Like I'm in tech sales, I work fully remote, I have an incredibly flexible job. You're in education, literally powering and upbringing like the backbone of our future generation. And it just looks so different. And so it's like our one time a week where we get to go, all these new things that open in Austin, all of my friends and family, like I always get texts Sunday morning at around like 11 o'clock. Like if I get a phone call from someone, they're like, oh wait, sorry, yeah, you're at Sunday. Like people know. And we need to like coin it. Like we need to trademark it. Like Sunday, it's
We
so
have
cute.
to.
I
I
know.
saw an Austin influencer last week or 2 weeks ago, and she was like, "We're here on a Sunday," and I was like, "Girl,
That's our thing.
don't even like go there.
Don't even go there
We've already
unless you're
been
inviting
knowing.
us.
You've
Don't even
already
talk
been
about
knowing."
Sunday unless you're inviting us. Yeah. Okay. You've been warned, whoever that influencer is. But
Exactly.
anyways,
Exactly.
I think what's so fun about our Sundays in starting this podcast and talking about it is now that we know, like, yes, even if we're not in person, we call each other, we send voice memos. But pretty soon, here in 5 months, I'm going to be moving and we're no longer going to be living in the same city. And so it's going to be like even that much more important for us for like the next 5 months, our Sundays to like live them out. And then like talk about and transition, like what does it look like for like two friends who have literally spent every single Sunday together for the last 12 months. What does it look like for that to abruptly change? So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited for what's to
Yeah.
come for us. I'm excited for this podcast. And I think like a little bit more, I guess, if we're wrapped up, we should talk about like maybe the name of like All of That to Say and then like get into it, right? How we started and came up with the All of That to Say podcast. I feel like back to like how we're just like constantly yapping. We don't know a moment of silence. We'll be on our Sunday walks, walking Town Lake, talking about like the new Vanderpump Rules like episode that dropped, and just be on like a 10-minute monologue rant. No breaths are taken, no sips of our coffee are taken. And then one of us will be like, so all of that to say, I just wish Ariana the best. And I feel like that was how the name of All That to Say came up, is like, we're going to have like a little single, a run-on sentence that goes on for like minutes and then wrap up with an All That to Say. But it also is a little bit of like paying our respects and dues to our favorite Taylor Swift, All
Our
That
queen.
to Say, Fortnite lyric. And I think it just perfectly like
So
ties
good.
those two things together. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obsessed.
All that to say, I guess let's
Let's
go into
say.
the first podcast I want to talk about that I listened to this week. Now, I think we're going to either talk about our favorite podcasts of the week or just like shocking ones that come out with new news. And I
Okay.
want to talk about the Halloween episode of Therapuss with Jake Shane this week because it absolutely, not only is it like Halloween season, but it had like quite literally 3 of my favorite like internet people on the episode. Okay, do you watch Jake Shane? Are you like a Pussy PSA girl? What's your history with Jake Shane?
I follow him on, I don't even think I follow him on TikTok. He's just always on my For You page.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I was going on and off. Oh God, this sounds bad. I would follow him and then unfollow him because he started doing a lot of brand stuff on his TikTok. I don't know.
Tea.
I liked his old TikToks where it was like do the Mona Lisa showing that she's not smiling. Like, have you seen those? And I
I feel
loved those. And then I kind of transitioned away from that. But I really like him, and I love he's just so genuine. Like, I feel like I know him. I feel like there's no surprises when it comes to him. So I guess that would be like my history with him.
Totally. I get what you're saying. It's like we see an influencer and how they like get famous is like stuck in our minds, and we're like, bring back that version of them. But like,
Yeah.
Jake's gonna evolve, he's gonna come out with his new content. But I could not agree with you more of like, bring back the skits. Like, that was my favorite part of
Yes.
Jake. But like, I think he also talks about his creative burnout a lot with those. So I don't
Oh,
know, it's one of those tricky,
okay.
like, it's one of those tricky things, because it's like, I don't know, we know and love someone for how they got famous and then they
He
change.
always
But
has hits too. So that's why I was like, why is it gone away?
totally, I know, I know. If this clip goes anywhere, I guess Jake Shane, bring back the clips. All of that to say, bring back the clips. But okay, so Benny and Terry. So Benny was like the guest of this episode. They were all dressed as like all of our favorite like icon pop stars of the moment. So Benny was dressed as Sabrina Carpenter. It was like they were all in drag. It all looked so good. Jake was Chapel Roan. It was so iconic.
Oh, I saw that TikTok. Okay.
So
I
good.
did see that. Okay.
And then Terry, who is Benny's boyfriend, was dressed as Charlie XCX. And like the fun irony of that is like Terry is like the creative director behind Charlie XCX. I don't know if you're in all of this lore, but I personally am, because Benny and Mary Beth Brown, they have a podcast together called Ride, which we will definitely be talking about throughout our podcast because it's constantly my favorite podcast of the week. But Benny,
Oh,
his boyfriend Terry is the creative director for Charlie. So you'll randomly see Charlie pop up in some of Terry's like TikToks, and just like there's a lot of lore behind it. But basically why it was my favorite podcast of this week is like they talked a lot about like the gay experience. Benny grew up in Idaho, very Midwestern, and didn't come out until like in college, and lived like a very similar upbringing to I had, like living in the Midwest. And Jake, I believe Jake said on the podcast, he came out to his parents at like 4 years old, and then came out to like his friends and family closer to maybe like middle school, like 13 or maybe a little bit older. And so
uh-huh.
it was like really interesting to hear too, like, you know, like queer guys talk about like their experience.
Hmm.
But they're also just
Yeah.
so funny. And yeah, they both, why I also want to bring this up is they both have OCD. And Sam, did you
Oh.
know that I am like diagnosed with severe OCD? I don't think we've ever talked about this.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay, anytime I bring up something like mental health related, Sam being in education, like having so
Oh
much like
my
psychology
gosh.
background, I feel like Sam is my friend who like, you psychoanalyze a bitch, you know, like you really
Yeah,
do.
I
But I've
do.
gone through a lot of work in therapy to like suppress my OCD. It doesn't come out often, but like if you're dating me, if we like, I guess we're going on a trip to New York and we'll be like
Oh
together for
my
like several
God.
days, it'll come out. Yeah, yeah. What
What
do you think of
kind of
OCD?
it?
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, I know from my psychology classes, I do know there's different ways that it can manifest. Like,
Yeah.
it's not, I know for a fact it's not the simple, like, this place needs to be spotless and things like that. I know it has like, I don't want to say obsessive traits, but like, it's like, you have to like for me, oh my gosh, I have to like, if I go like this, I have to do it on the other finger.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
Like
I
ticks,
don't
like that.
ticks are like certain taps and movements and things like that. That's kind of what I know about it.
That's how it manifests for me. That's what like Benny and Jake talked about. It manifests for them similarly. Yeah, like my night routine is like sacred to me. And I have no idea how it like evolved or came to be, but it's like the way like the bed is made, the way I go through my routine, like it has to be in a very strict order. And if it's that is like out of bounds, I'm like freaking out and I'm not sleeping.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, anyways, they talked about that. But I don't know, all I have to say is it was like the most powerful podcast episode. I love a Halloween edition when like people are like dressed up. And I don't know, they're just
Yes.
like three of the funniest like people on the internet today. And I just think they're all so creative and I love them. So, okay, what about you? What's one of your podcasts for the week?
Okay, I listened to the Call Her Daddy, Kelsea Ballerini. I found her a year ago, and it was because my friend Hannah sent me a song that If You Go Down, I'll Go Down With You, I believe is what it's
Yep.
called. And it's funny, I don't really know the title, but I listened to that song all the time. And I just loved her voice and how
She's so
modern
talented.
country it is. Like, I tell myself I'm not too into country, but I do have a country playlist and I play like all the usual people. Like, I love Casey Musgraves, but she's so talented. And then when I found out how young, I mean, I think she's young, but like, I think she was 22 when she got married. And she got married to an older person. I believe he was 27. Are you fact checking me?
I want to see how old she is.
She's 29 now, I
She's
believe.
29.
Or she got her divorce at 29,
Mmm.
right?
T
Oh
T
my
T T
gosh, do I
T.
have all the facts wrong?
That's okay.
Let's
I'm gonna
see.
look. She's
I
31. So that adds up. I remember when she got a divorce. That was like for sure like 2 years ago. So she was divorced at
okay.
like 29 and she's 31 now. Yeah.
Okay, yes. So she was talking about her experience. Do you know anything about her divorce?
I remember that she was on Call Her Daddy to talk about her divorce, but I don't did they get married young? I don't really know anything about it. No. Tell me.
Well, so she's talking about how the way she grew up was a religious type of way. So
Okay.
she would talk about how like sex was really sacred to her and it was like very like she didn't really have experience and things like that. She didn't ever really want to talk about it. And I was kind of shocked by that because I don't know, for some reason I thought she was more open about things. Is she more open now? I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I feel like what I had heard of her was she was more open. And so I was really surprised to hear that. And she was talking about how her relationship, she got engaged after 6 months of knowing him.
Yeah.
And it was a really fast relationship. And she was saying how, like, when you're in the moment, and I know a lot of people like relate to this, you don't even realize the flags that are popping up. And she even said, like, she didn't even acknowledge that, like, when she was in the relationship, people telling her, like, this is probably not the best for you. And she was saying how her best friend clocked it and was like, I don't really know. And, when you're in a relationship, especially as a woman, sometimes we like to just let things go because there's a balance when it comes to relationships
Yeah.
and there's a push and a give, and it's also like you can start a certain way and you can learn and grow together to become a certain thing. And so I think it's really hard, especially when we're so young and there's so many different medias that are out there, right? Things that we're seeing. It's hard to depict unless you grow up, I guess, in a really healthy household to
Yeah.
know what a healthy relationship is. Because, like, even in child psychology, a lot of parents, or a lot of kids, this is their norm. And so she was saying she didn't realize the way that he would act sometimes just wasn't the best. And she said that she had never felt so lonely in her life than when
Mm.
she was in that relationship.
Uh, I
It
cannot relate
was
to that more. Yeah.
My heart hurt for her because you could tell it was like she had realized that she was alone in that relationship. She was talking about how she would buy him plane tickets and he wouldn't even get on it to come see her.
Mm.
She was the handler with everything. So she paid for everything. She set up all the dates. She set up plane rides for him to come out and see her.
Do you think
And
their Venmo transactions were public?
oh my God, right? I bet, like, as a friend, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I go through your transactions just to see what you're doing because I get
Oh my
so bored.
god.
I go through so
Yes.
many transactions. Um, but I felt for this poor girl. Like, I know that she's older now, but what I loved, and I think what you would love, is I was thinking about you this whole podcast because she talked about she learned the importance of female friendships through this relationship, which is just such a crazy concept that a relationship can teach you female friendships. And she was saying how her ex-husband, obviously, she sent him a flight. He didn't show up. And she was talking about a year later, her best friend came out. to support her. And
Yep.
she made it a big deal, and her friend turned to her and was like, "This is the bare minimum. Of course I should be here for you." And
Facts.
she
Yeah.
was like, that's when it hit me that female friendships are so important, and I'm so lucky to have them, is because of situations like this. Like, her friend picked up that she was struggling a little bit and then flew out to see her. Like, how special is that? And I think it kind of ties into you moving in a few months, is I know that obviously we both have different jobs and different careers, but if you had something going on in your life, I would try and do something similar, if not the same. Like,
Yeah.
at least try and FaceTime you, at least try and reach out. Kind of notice what is going on and taking situations. Obviously, we're adults and it's hard to get inside your head, but it was so special to hear that. And
Oh.
her take on the relationship was so mature. I don't know if I could have ever been that mature, but she's like, there's three different sides to the story. This is my side. He has his own side of the story, and then there's the kind of middle ground. And she got really raw and open about how when they filed for divorce, he went behind her back and like released a song before the divorce was even finalized, kind of villainizing her.
I've missed all of this lore, like the Kelsea Ballerini lore.
Did you really?
I've missed all of
Oh my
this.
gosh, you have to go listen to the podcast.
Okay, I'm gonna catch up and listen to it because
So
I saw
good.
Kelsea Ballerini live during the what's the music thing that's filmed in Austin? Oh my god. Is it the American Country Awards?
Oh, yes.
The
Yes.
CMT, like, right?
Yes, CMT,
Literally
yeah.
the CMT Awards. Okay, someone
Yeah.
fact check that because damn, can
I
you
think
tell
so,
we're
yeah.
two non-country
Country
girlies here?
music. I
But
don't remember the last part.
in Austin, they basically, like, when they film those shows, they need, like, you know, all of the like live little concerts they have like throughout the like awards ceremony. You know how like the
Yeah.
pit is always filled with people. So they were
Yeah.
filming that in Austin, and I was like literally like front row, Kelsea Ballerini. Like, she walked by me. She got to like re-sing this song like a million times because they were obviously doing like a taping. It was a pre-recorded
Yeah.
taping that then they like showed during the live like awards ceremony.
Okay.
She is so beyond beautiful, like in the real life, and I'm obsessed with her boyfriend Chase Stokes.
Oh,
like,
yes.
could he be hotter?
Oh.
I love nothing more than like to hear a girl say like, I've never felt lonelier in a relationship, go through that breakup, and like the outset of like the pain that she went through with that divorce was like foundation in female friendships, and like understanding like her worth, and like being able to like find I love when people are able to find like the same love feeling, not just from a romantic partner. And that's like a journey I've had to learn, is like I can foster those same type of feelings, adventure with myself, with my friends, and with my family. So
Yeah.
go off, Kelsea. Go off.
Absolutely.
Love her.
It was so good. And I loved that she was kind of saying like right now marriage is not a priority, especially with how bad the divorce was. Like, he contributed nothing and he won like half of the house. It was either
Damn.
that or what's it called? Like, when she has to pay him,
Yeah.
she would
So,
have to do that.
and she flat out said like she like did Alex like straight up ask her like, do you want to get married to Chase, or like how do you feel about
Yeah,
marriage?
well, she was like, "How do you feel about marriage now?" I mean, it was
Yeah.
a really comfortable podcast. Like, they were laughing, and I mean, she cried at certain parts for sure, but she was like, you know, with how things went, and Alex was like, "Yeah, the last one wasn't too great in the end," and she was like, "Yeah, like it wasn't too great, but she doesn't necessarily want to leave it off the table. It's just it's
Yeah.
not a priority or anything that she desires right now, which I think is totally fine. I love that she's 31. Is that what you said? 31 or
Yep.
32? And she's
31.
going at her own timeline. Like, she even mentioned she wanted to freeze her eggs and all of that. And I think that it's so empowering to have a country music star talking about that as well. I feel like
Real.
that's not usually talked about in country.
Yep.
And so I love that for her. And like the whole divorce thing, I feel like, again, country's kind of changing and evolving from what I remember when I was growing up.
I was about to say Kelsea Ballerini is an icon, and I'm gonna be listening to that
Yeah.
episode, and I need to like get in on this drama and this tea. I'm obsessed with Rain Chase. That's
It's
like one
so
thing I know
good.
for sure.
Okay, so my husband Josh is in the background and he can hear us. And I was like, "How's it going?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's great. Can I leave?"
We're not
So
holding you hostage,
we're
babe.
we're not doing a live studio audience anytime soon, is what I'm getting from this. And he pointed too. I feel like that's even worse. Is he's like, "Can I
Can I
leave?
can I go?
Can
Oh,
I go?" Like you've been in the we're in a one bedroom, so like you're in the bedroom portion of our small apartment. You are not being held captive by any means, King.
awesome. Okay,
Anyways.
so confidence level at the start of the show so high. Confidence level now. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
You
You
could
don't
care
have to
less.
suffer in listening to us anymore.
I
Thanks,
do not
Josh.
want a live studio audience anymore. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I have never listened to this podcast before, but it had our girl Lala on the episode this week. Okay. Do you know which one I'm
Stop.
talking about? The
It's
Jeff Lewis
something
has
low.
issues.
Oh, Jeff
It
Lewis. Okay,
Yeah, Jeff
yes.
Lewis has issues.
Oh,
I know of Jeff Lewis, like absolute icon, legend, but it's not a podcast I regularly listen to, and that's what I love about this medium to talk about podcasts is I'm also going to start exploring new podcasts
hmm.
to listen to. So, everybody will start getting a taste of like our favorite ones in our rotation.
I'm
But
stressed to hear this.
okay. Yeah. So Lala and Ryan Bailey were on an episode of Jeff Lewis Has Issues this week. And so one, they talked about like Sosa, her baby, talked about like
Yes.
the funny, like, these bitches love Sosa, like the evolution of
Yes.
the name. Like one thing about Lala, she is that
Really
out because I've
confident
in her
in her
decisions.
decisions. Don't cut
Perfect,
that out.
perfect,
She's
perfect.
confident in her decisions.
She's confident in her decisions and, dare I
Okay.
say, extremely stubborn in those thought processes and decisions. And as
Hmm.
someone who also is stubborn, like I watch Lala live and I'm like, is this what people think of me and my stubbornness? Like it makes me question, do you think she's stubborn? Like do you sense it? Do you see it?
I I think it's confidence. I don't know if I
Oh
don't
my God,
know.
that's so interesting. Okay,
I don't
let's talk
know.
about confidence. Let's talk about confidence. I agree that
I
she's
don't know.
confident, but I grew up like I'm very assured in who I am, very confident, but like Lala, I don't know. Do you feel like she listens to like the other perspective ever? Like is she ever
No.
able to like yeah, okay. That's it.
No. Is that stubbornness? Is that what you
That's stubbornness.
define stubborn? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just like set in your
Yeah.
ways, not able to
Yeah.
like think that there can be like two truths or two like, you
No.
know, yeah, okay. So that's something she talked about her 6 years being sober. Like, congrats to her for that. I think
Oh,
that's
I didn't know
incredible.
that.
6 years,
Good for
that's like
her.
major. I like track things in like 4 years to me, just because you're in high school for 4 years, you're in college for 4 years, and to think that she's hit like the 4 year mark plus 2 years of being sober, like she's a
That's
super
amazing.
senior of being sober. I know.
Yes,
Yeah.
and watching the show, like it was such a necessary journey for her, and I'm so happy that she's been able to do that for herself and obviously her family too.
I know. And her
Oh,
her new baby, yeah, it's all too amazing. At the end of the day, I do love Lava, but she is like a reality TV star who we see under a microscope and we do tend to like analyze. But you know, a lot of the conversation then led back to obviously like what's going on with Vanderpump, what's going on
mm,
with just like the entire cast, and what's going on with your relationship and Ariana. And the
mm.
fact that her and Ariana like no longer have a relationship, she is cheering for her. She's cheering for her, and the fact that like she has had a very successful year in her career, but like
You said
she's
that
not
in the
tuning into
podcast?
Love Island. She did. She was, her your typical I wish her the best, but like I'm not tuning into Love
Okay.
Island, but like go off girl. That's pretty much like what
Oh,
her the theme of the conversation was. And I am curious because this I feel like is a common thread with a lot of, reality TV kind of like pop type of accounts. The big question always is, do you think Lala is jealous of Ariana and the opportunities she got this year? And is that what drove the wedge between them and like the drama that we saw in this most like recent season?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Her like demanding for more screen time, I feel like, and all she had to do, oh God, I feel like it's so bad to say, but like I've seen all these comments like her water tasting, like that was her big moment. And I feel like it put the reality in reality TV because that probably is her day-to-day life.
Yeah,
Like, and
totally.
that's okay. But I feel like I don't know. I've seen on TikTok and I feel like I should watch the full podcast for things because I've seen TikToks of her and she seemed really hateful and mean about Ariana. And so I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that in this podcast she was more like professional, like all the best to her because
Yeah.
before I don't think that she had that perspective. I think like I remember I heard a comment of her saying like she's messing with our jobs and my babies. Oh, I don't think that we should have that because she gets so defensive over her kid. But
Which
I
I think
feel
is
like
accurate. I think that's like okay, we can cut that if you want though. But
I don't
I
know. I just feel like I understand it's her livelihood, but it's also like this is reality TV, and I think that as much as we don't want to say it, there is a lot of realness in every single show. I mean, the
yeah.
hate they get, the support they get, it's both ways, and like I just don't think that we should if we were friends and we went on reality TV show, it would be so hard to think that I would be piling on like against from my friend if they're doing so well. I don't know. I
I
do think
love
it's
that take.
jealousy. I do
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
jealousy. It hurts my heart though.
I think from Lala's like point of view, she went through hell of like her downfall, her ex, her
Mhm.
trauma in like a apples to oranges comparison of Ariana's
Yeah.
experience, but I think she's like, I showed up because I'm trying to support my daughter. And then
Hmm.
there's like Ariana who's like getting away and being able to pull the whole, bravo, bravo, bravo of it all and like get
Yeah.
herself out of situations.
Hmm.
I think it's just honestly, it's the downfall of Vanderpump. Like the Valley
Yeah.
is now a show. People love the Valley. And
Yeah.
I think like it makes sense as like a direction for the show to go because that's like the type of lifestyle they're starting to live more, right? In the Valley
Yeah.
with the kids and the PTA and like that type of drama.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. Lala's like whole, I feel like, all I was about to say, Lala, her whole shtick was just like she couldn't let go of the fact that Ariana was living with Tom for that long. And I can understand
Yeah.
that, but I also like I lived with my ex after we broke up
You
too.
did.
I
You did.
did.
I
But
helped you
that's
move out.
because you helped me literally move out. But we were also in like a lease situation. But that's the only
Yes.
other thing. Like the only thing I can like try and play devil's advocate for is it's like a trauma bond. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I like give Ari some
I
grace, but
mean,
I
but
also
it's
think
also
sh-
a house in this economy. That was my whole thing is like they mentioned on the show so many times how much the down payment was, how much their monthly
yeah.
payments and things were. It's like I don't know their salaries to T, but I know money wise, I wouldn't want to pay for a full house and then get an apartment somewhere else. I
Yeah.
would like maybe go live with a parent if I had that luxury or a friend that would maybe give me less rent if I surfed. But also like they invested in a house together. They've been together for 10 years. I don't
Yeah.
know. And I feel
I don't
like,
know. I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
aren't they made of money? Like seriously, let's be so for real. They've been on this show for how long? Like Bravo
Yeah.
celebrities do get paid very well for being on a show for that long. And like, even I don't know, after the divorce, think of all of the brand deals Ariana got in. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding? I know she
Yeah.
could absolutely have afforded to move out, but she also was probably like, this is my freaking house too. So I don't know. It
Yeah.
was an interesting episode. I think the whole thing is interesting of like, is Vanderpump ever gonna come back? How long are they on this break
I hope
for? And
not.
like you
I
you
love
hope it
this
doesn't come
show.
back?
No, I love this show, but I think it kind of clicked when you were talking about the Valley. It's kind of organic for
Yeah.
friendships at this age to change that way. Like, even
Yeah.
now, I have friends that are pregnant and married, and you have friends, same thing. Like,
Yeah.
but I also have friends that aren't even close to that. And I have noticed, and I have been like a product of this, is that sometimes in friendships, like your interests change just because you do get married or you do start having kids or you're on that path. And like, I've definitely noticed changes. I mean, that's sometimes how I've lost friendships is they have evolved in a different way than where I was. And so I guess it kind of showed that I think in the finale, it kind of showed that because Lala and Sheena both have kids and they're moving in a completely different direction than Ariana. And Ariana's focus is not brand deals in a bad way, but like moving forward in TV. And I think that's great. And I think it
I
should
agree.
be done.
And I
I
think
don't
both
know.
should be supported and like uplifted. You're
Mhm.
so right. But like it doesn't make sense for those two things to coexist necessarily in like a reality TV format.
I agree.
Love that. Okay, I want to hear about
Perfect.
your last podcast of the week.
Okay. I'm gonna make it quick because there was a lot of different parts to it, but I'm gonna say the
Highlight.
interesting parts.
Okay,
So
okay.
Anna Kendrick, I listened to Call Her
Yeah.
Daddy again. So I just had to because it
We've got a
said Anna.
daddy gang member, okay?
I
You're just a
had
daddy gang
to.
girl.
I had to because it's Anna Kendrick in the title, but also had Twilight. And I'm reading Twilight and Midnight Sun right now because it's spooky season. And so I was like, I have to listen to because she was in Twilight. Have you seen
Wait,
Twilight?
can you still hear me? Oh my god.
Yes, she was in Twilight. Have you seen
I'm having a
Twilight?
coughing fit. Have I seen Twilight? Are you kidding me?
Did you know she was in Twilight?
Duh, I knew she was in Twilight. That's
Okay.
my thing about Anna is like she I know she's had the most successful career after Twilight, but to me she will only ever be Twilight. Like she really will. That's just
Really?
like
Not
yeah,
Pitch
that's
Perfect?
when I think of Pitch Perfect, I honestly think of like Rebel Wilson. I don't even
Yeah, that's
I love
true.
Pitch Perfect, but I think of like Adam, like what's his name? Divine.
Adam
Fun fact,
Devine. Yeah.
I met
Yes.
him. I have a picture with him.
I have a picture with him too, and Josh makes fun of me because I am barely in the picture.
Wait, you haven't how did you where did you meet him?
So at ASU, we have something called the Memorial Union. We call it the MEU. Well, I did. I don't know if that's.
Okay.
But he was there because they're promoting. Have you seen Workaholics with Adam
Yeah.
Devine?
Yeah.
Okay, he was promoting the movie he was doing with them.
Oh,
And I
cute.
walked by and all I hear is screaming. I'm like, what is this? And I
Yeah.
hadn't even seen Workaholics yet. All I saw was Adam Devine. I did not know who the other men were on stage. And I got the last 5 minutes, and all of a sudden I hear, let's do a photo. And so I go running. I was horrible. I was pushing people, and I get to the very front, and you can see me in the corner, but just barely. So Josh always makes fun of me because I'm like, I met him. I didn't meet him. I was just in the
Yeah.
picture.
No, you totally met him, but my picture was a one-on-one. So I think
How did you
I
meet him?
he came to our college campus too. He has ties like
Oh,
back to Nebraska. Like I think he grew up like outside of Omaha. So yeah, no,
I
he's
did
like a
not know that.
Nebraska guy and a lot of Nebraska ties. But yeah, that's kind of my I love Pitch Perfect, but honestly, Anna Kendrick, when I think of her, I think of Twilight or I think of Trolls.
Oh, okay. Trolls is really valid though. But for
What did
me,
she talk
Justin
about
Timberlake
though?
is in Trolls. Okay,
Oh,
so
facts.
she mentioned it was a really long episode. But my favorite parts was her talking about how in Twilight people forget she's in it to the point that she's even forgotten that she's like on it. Like there was like a tweet or someone asked her about Twilight and she was like, I wasn't on it. And she was like, wait, yes, I was.
That's
Because like
hilarious.
it's so funny because she was so like humble about it. She's like, I was not the most important person in the room. And she like acknowledged that and she was like, if I wasn't a werewolf, a vampire, no one cared about me. And so she talked about she would go and just think about how it's just like a funny day in her life. Like she didn't take it serious at all and she thought it was so funny because her character in the movie wasn't anything like in the books. She did not look like how she was described in the books. Like Jessica in the books was supposed to be like blue-eyed, blonde hair, green eyes, blonde hair, perky, athletic build, and she's like, I was none of that, but I got
That
casted.
volleyball scene. I remember that volleyball
Yes,
scene.
yes.
Wait, I didn't. Okay, I have not reread the Twilight books in
So
years,
good,
but I
so
rewatch the
good.
Twilight movies like very often. Like that's like one
Yeah.
thing about like me and like my two best friends from college. Like every time we get together, like Twilight is on. Kylie, Jen, and I, like on our
Oh,
trips, we watch Twilight all the time together. But I haven't
oh
reread the
my
books.
God.
I didn't even think about the fact that they were like Jessica was so different in the book and the
So
movies.
different. So different.
Oh,
And that's funny that you mentioned that because I have something called Twilight-a-thon. I think we've talked about this. Every single time it rains, if I don't have the time to watch the movies, I play only the Twilight soundtrack.
so good.
And fun fact, that was actually how I got on my show, is that was my fun fact, was I participate in Twilight-a-thon, and the producers were like, what is that? Like, and so I told them like all about my obsession, and they were like, yeah, that's really weird. Like, that's great. And like, we are definitely going to use that because like, who watches Twilight in 2024? And I'm like, no, for real. There's like a whole fan base. Like, you don't even like realize it. It's like a cult
Yeah.
at this point. But yeah, she was so funny because she talked about that. She gave such good praise to the whole franchise and everything like that. Like, I watched this interview and fell in love with her even more. Like, I
Oh,
loved her from Pitch Perfect. I love her from Twilight. Anything that she's ever done, I've been her biggest fan. But she got really raw and open about how she was in a relationship that was not great, and the guy was really manipulative. And they would do couples therapy, and the therapist didn't pick up that this was happening.
my biggest
And
nightmare.
the therapist ended up apologizing to her about, yeah, it's, oh my gosh, it's so like Anna is so like such a good person to be interviewed because she can go from really funny to like really serious and handle topics really seriously.
An
And so she was,
actress.
yes, and she was talking about Woman of the Hour, her new movie.
Are you going to see it?
I want to see it now because I found out she donated the money earned for domestic violence foundations,
Queen.
like millions of dollars. And
Wow.
she was talking about how it was so raw and interesting because she went in and no one knew that she had literally just gotten out of a relationship, a toxic relationship like that.
Oh, so this was like a recent, like not that long
Yeah.
ago relationship. Wow.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
so interesting because I'm going to have to listen to this because that is a topic of a conversation. Like, with one, I think both of us have like been to therapy before. Like, we're so pro therapy and like so
Yes.
advocates of like get help for your mental health. Like, it's something whether you're
Yeah.
going through something or not. Like, it's so good for you, right? But
So
like,
good.
let's be so for real with like the recent, better helps and all of it. Not that BetterHelp specifically I think is an issue, but just like telehealth in general. Like,
Hmm.
I there is no shortage of finding a therapist now, but like finding the right therapist for you honestly is like a
Yes.
challenge in of it itself, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like manipulators though, like that's got to be of being a therapist. I don't know. I know nothing about this. I'm so speaking out of like line, but like I would have a manipulator is a manipulator for a reason. They're gonna try to manipulate the therapist. But that's my biggest
Yeah.
nightmare is being like gaslit in therapy and like going to something to try to get like better and get help, and then he gaslights everybody. That's crazy.
Well, and Alex kind of interjected and she was like, yeah, that's like kind of his roles. It like he's a manipulator. So of course
Yeah.
he's gonna put on this face for the most important person right now to fix the relationship. And so it was just really interesting because Anna brought up the good point that therapists are also people. This is not like a textbook like, and that's the
Totally.
thing, like I didn't even realize that you had OCD because I studied all of this, but that doesn't mean I have it all down. And so I
Totally.
just kind of like related to that because it's like it's so great to have humans in fields, and I say that because of all the AI and all the things that are happening. But mistakes like this, or I don't even know if it's a mistake. I don't know how to phrase it, but what happened to her, it's just so sad because she was saying how frustrated she was when she was leaving because she was like, why doesn't anybody see this? Like she was
Yeah.
saying like at one point she was just like, I just want to be told what's wrong with me in the relationship. And that's how I would go into therapy sometimes, is like, I was looking to be like, what, like, just, and I get like this now because I have really bad anxiety. I have to have someone tell me straight up what I did wrong. If I did something wrong. And I tell, like, me and Josh are this way, I've told you this way, like, that is how I communicate, is if I did something to hurt you, I need to be told that, because I sometimes I don't know.
Yeah. And
Or
it
if I
needs to be
have
like
an
direct.
inkling. Yeah, or
Yeah.
if I have an inkling, I like sometimes I'm wrong because I have anxiety and I overthink it. Like, I've had situations where I thought friends hated me and they're like, "Wait, no, I was just busy that week."
Totally.
Or I've had
Yeah.
the opposite where I thought everything was fine and it wasn't. So I just loved her episode. I really think it's a really good episode to watch, especially because you get to see Anna as a person. I haven't seen that many interviews with her. I've just seen her comedy moments on interviews.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I look forward to like supporting her more.
I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
All that to say, big takeaway is like I know also nothing about Anna Kendrick, like her personality. I know nothing about her besides her characters and roles. So, oh, I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. Oh my God, Sam, we did it!
We
Episode
did
1. Okay,
it. Ah.
I am gonna have a journey editing this. I hope this wasn't too insufferable, but like I don't care
Okay.
if anybody listens or if it's literally just us, but if you are listening right now, thank you. And I think this is going to be like a really fun journey for us to go on and just like shoot the shit about our lives and about our favorite thing ever, which is just like podcasts. So okay, I don't know, that's all for me, I
All
guess.
that to say, have a good weekend.
Bye.